Most people go through their entire lives without asking the question this video ends with. Not because it is hard to find, but because it is genuinely uncomfortable to sit with honestly. And discomfort, as you now know from this series, is precisely where the useful things live. This is the final video in the Subtle Art series. Unlike the previous four, it does not introduce a new concept. It brings everything together through one lens Manson places at the end of the book deliberately: the lens of mortality. Before you switch off, this is not a video about grief or darkness or appreciating what you have before it is gone. That version of the conversation exists everywhere and tends to produce brief gratitude followed by nothing changing. What Manson does with mortality is different and considerably more practical. He uses it as a filter, the clearest and most reliable filter available for the question we have been circling all series: what is actually worth caring about? Here's why it works when almost nothing else does consistently. One of the core problems we named in episode 1 is that most people have never made a deliberate decision about what deserves their attention. They absorbed values, standards, and measures of success from their environment without examining them honestly. They care about things they never consciously chose. They measure themselves against standards nobody helped them interrogate. They spend finite energy on things that feel urgent in the moment and are not actually important in any time frame that matters. And they never stop to examine any of this because stopping feels like a luxury there is no time for. There is always something more pressing: a deadline, a conversation, a problem that arrived this morning. Life is loud. The important questions are quiet. Mortality cuts through the noise in a way almost nothing else reliably does. When you take seriously not as an abstract fact, but as a felt personal reality, that the time you have is genuinely limited and non-negotiable, the filter becomes immediate and clarifying. The question stops being, what should I care about in some general aspirational sense that can always be deferred? It becomes, what do I actually want to have spent my time on? Those two questions sound similar. They produce radically different answers when you sit with them honestly. The first is largely answered for you by your environment, your culture, and the expectations of the people around you. The second can only be answered by you, and only if you are honest about what the answer actually is rather than what it ought to sound like. Manson writes about the backwards law in a related context, and it applies here directly. The things most worth having in a life: genuine meaning, integrity, real connection, work that matters to you on your own terms, are almost never the things that feel most urgent on any given day. They are the quiet things, the things that do not announce themselves or demand attention or send reminders. And because they are quiet, they get crowded out by the loud things unless you have a filter strong enough to protect them consistently over time. Mortality is that filter, not as a source of anxiety, as a source of clarity. When you genuinely ask, what do I want to have spent my time on? The things that feel important because of social pressure or status anxiety tend to shrink very fast. The things that feel important because they are actually important to you on your own honest terms tend to become clearer than they have been in years. This connects every episode in this series into a single argument. Episode 1 named the lie that more wanting produces more meaning. Episode 2 gave you the tool of deliberate selection over absorbed defaults. Episode 3 examined what happens when the identity you were given collides with the life you are actually living. Episode 4 separated fault from responsibility and returned to you the agency that exists after something goes wrong. This episode gives you the question that makes all the selection real and personal. Here is how the series closes. Find 15 minutes this week without interruption. Ask this and write down whatever comes honestly, without editing it for how it sounds. If I knew with certainty I had 10 years left, what would I stop spending time on, and what would I protect at almost any cost? Do not answer it the way you think you should. Answer it the way it actually feels when you are being completely honest. That answer, unedited, is the closest thing to a genuine values audit you will ever do. And a values audit done honestly is where everything this book argues for actually begins. Thank you for watching this series. The next one starts next week. Subscribe so you are there when it begins,